Hello friends, welcome to the sixth day of our 100-day prelims challenge. Prudence IAS is giving you the daily challenges before the prelims of 2018. You can access all these questions, question papers and answer keys on our website, and you can download it for free with the answer key and explanations. And you can also listen to this explanation video on our YouTube channel. We hope you are benefited with this initiative. So let's start today's topic. Today's challenge is also in the continuation of the previous topic, that is modern Indian history. We have picked up the 10 topics which are remaining portion of revolt of 1857, Bahadur Shah Jafar's tenure, Khan Bahadur Khan, Government of India Act 1858, Lord Mayo and Lord Ripon, controversies like Ilbertville, Vernacular Press Act, Indian Factory Act of 1881, Surendranath Banerjee, and Indigo Revolt. The sources for these questions are NCRT, old NCRT of class 12 by Bipan Chandra, chapter number 7 and 8. You can also refer to NIOS materials and previous year UPSC question papers to get a feel how they are asking the questions. So let's begin with the first question. Which of the following are true regarding the Indigo Revolt of 1857? The key leaders of this revolt were Biswas brothers. Niche system was used by Europeans directly for the cultivation of indigo. Riot system was never used for indigo cultivation, so this is kind of moderate to difficult question depending upon if you have the knowledge of ownership of these indigo plantations, then only you will be able to solve this first MCQ. So the explanation goes like niche system was when the Europeans directly controlled the plantation of indigo. So second option is correct. Also, this indigo plantation, that was indigo was being cultivated on both niche system and Rayatwari system. In Rayatwari system, we already know that the company extracted direct revenue taxes from the peasants, the cultivators. So this was also a popular system of indigo cultivation. So option 3 is also correct, and the key leaders of this revolt were the Vishwa brothers. They played an important role, that is Digambar Vishwa and Vishnu Vishwa. So option would be um, 1 and 2, because the riot system was also used. So third is obviously wrong. So let's move on to read the explanation. The British established commercial cultivation and production of indigo in India as early as 1777. By 1788, most of the production of indigo originated in Bengal. The system became highly exploitative when the planters were accorded permission to own the lands. At the same time, there were two systems. So basically, they are talking about the niche system in which the European planters produced indigo directly, and then the Rayatwari system. Under the Rayatwari system, the planters forced the ryots or the peasant to sign an agreement so that they could get loans, advances from planters and grow the indigo. However, one term of the agreement was that the riot could cultivate indigo on at least 25% of the land. The loan made the people indebted, means they were the heavy loans, and resulted in rebellion in 1859-60 in the eastern part of Bengal. The key leaders of this revolt were again Vishwa brother and of Nadia, that they are Digambar Viswas brothers and Vishnu Viswas. So for in first question we came to know about the two different systems of revenue collection from the indigo peasants, that are niche system and Rayatwadi system, in which the taxes were directly collected from the peasants. So now let's move on to the second question. Consider the following statements about Bahadur Shah II, that is Bahadur Shah Jafar. He enthusiastically accepted the leadership of Sepoy Mutiny. No, actually he was very old and he was not enthusiastic about fighting the British Empire, because he very well knew about the strengths of British. So he did not intend to participate initially. He rejected the leadership of Sepoy mutiny when the Sepoys approached him. So first one is wrong. Jafar was not sentenced but exiled to Rangoon. Yes, he was sent to Burma in exile. So second option is correct. Now let's read the explanation. Uh, Answer is B, two only, obviously. When the Sepoys first arrived the Bahadur Shah Jafar's court, he asked them why they had come to him because he had no means of maintaining them. Means he was no longer interested in fighting the British Empire. Bahadur Shah was conduct was indecisive. However, he yielded to the demands of Sepoys. So when the Sepoys demanded forcefully, then he provided his name for the leadership of the 1857 mutiny. So you should be aware whether the leaders were interested or not. Although he was called the Mughal emperor and the emperor of India, but he did not intend to fight British because he was aware of the strength of British. Jafar was not sentenced, but he was exiled to Rangoon, Burma, where he died in November 1862 at the age of 87. So this concludes the second question. Let's see the third question. As per the Queen's Victoria's proclamation of 1st November 1858, after the revolt of 1857, this was the direct proclamation. This is also known as Government of India Act 1858. Which of the following is correct? Declaration expressed the rights of native princes. Yes, actually the regressive policy of Lord Dalhousie, which by which he applied different kind of instruments like doctrine of lapse, and he started taking uh, the territories of princely states in a, started annexing them to the British territories. So after which this 1857 revolt happened. So this British government took direct control of all these affairs of company, and it expressed the rights, means it recognized the rights of native princes to rule in their princely estates. So first option is obviously correct, and second is Indian sepoys were removed from regular service of British Army. This is obviously not correct, and by the logic we can also solve this because Indian sepoys got admitted to the regular service of British Army. They also served in First World War and Second World War. So by logic, this second option seems incorrect. So correct would be A, one only. Let's move on to read the explanation. As per Queen Victoria's proclamation of November 1858, all treaties and agreements made with the Indian native princes under the authority of East India Company did not cease to exist but were there to stay and accepted by the crown. The declaration expressed faith and right dignity, so they recognized the rights of princes to rule their own native states. Indian public was given an assurance that there would not be any extension of current territorial possessions. So, Indian people were taken in confidence that British government is going to be there for their good, for the good of Indian people. The most important result was now onwards the Indian sepoys were enlisted as a regular service in the British Army and participated in world wars in the next century. So only option A is correct. Now let's move on to the question number 4. Which of the following is true about Lord Mayo? His tenure is from 1869 to 72. He was assassinated in Port Blair, as far as I know. He was the first Governor General to be murdered. This seems correct. India's census planning began during his tenure. The first census of India happened in 1881. But yes, the planning for the census of India actually started way before the actual census of 1881. So option 2 is also correct. He took initiatives for arranging the census of India for the first time. So option would be C. Both of these are correct. Lord Mayo was uh, Viceroy of India from 12th of January 1869 to 8th February 1872. He started the process of decentralization of finance. So all these steps taken by Lord Mayo are being discussed here. In foreign affairs, he allowed the policy of non-intervention. Means he stopped these annexations and waging war against the other independent kingdoms. He opened up Mayo College in Ajmer for educating children of aristocratic families so that they can later serve the purpose of British expansion, British government. India's census began during his tenure. A systematic and modern population census in its present form was conducted non-synchronously between 1865 and 1872 in different parts of country. This effort culminated in 1872, has been popularly in India, was held in 1881. So we have discussed this, the first census in 1881. He was the first Governor General to be murdered in office by Pathan Sher Ali in Port Blair. So he is the first Governor General to be assassinated by the Indians. Uh, let's move on to the fifth question. Consider the following about the Ilbert Bill of 1884. So Bill controversy. Most of you should be aware about this. This was a good bill considered for the Indians because it gave the Indian judges the power to try the European convicts. So basically, it was against those oppressive European planters of indigo uh, who were uh, being violent against the peasants of indigo cultivation, and this bill basically gave the native Indian judges the power to try them. So there was a hue and cry among the planters of European that they were afraid that this bill is going to give the power to Indian judges about their trials. So let's read the explanation options. British tea and indigo planters supported the bill. This is wrong because they were very critical about this bill. They were fearful that Indian judges are going to try them for their misdeeds. The bill intended to abolish the racial prejudice from the Indian Penal Code. Yes, obviously this is correct because in case if Ilbert Bill had been passed, the Indian judges would have got the power to try the European convicts. Lord Lytton was the viceroy during the passage of this bill. No, this was the good bill, and this good bill refers to the tenure of Lord Ripon, who is also considered the good Governor General of India. So the option 3 seems to be incorrect. So correct options would be only uh, the correct option would be 2 only. So obviously it is by mistake that the correct option would be uh, 2 only. So let's move on to read the explanation. The Ilbert Bill was introduced in 1883 by Lord Ripon, who was considered as a good viceroy, who actually desired to abolish the racial prejudice from the Indian Penal Code. Ripon had proposed an amendment to the existing law in the country and to allow Indian judges and magistrates the jurisdiction to try British offenders in criminal cases at district level. So the most vocal opponent of these bill were the tea and indigo planters, as I've already discussed. So option 2 is correct. Lord Ripon was the viceroy during the passage of this bill. Now let's read the question number 6. Consider the following statements in context of Vernacular Press Act of 1878. It is also regarded as the gagging act. Yes, it gagged the powers of expression, freedom of expression of local language newspapers. So first option is correct. Lord Lytton passed the Vernacular Press Act. Yes, because this Lytton was considered as a very regressive Governor General, and this Vernacular Press Act came during his tenure, but it was later repealed by the good Governor General Lord Ripon, as we all know. By this act, the magistrates of district were empowered against to act against the Vernacular Press Act. This also seems correct. So option would be all all of the three. That is D. Let's read the explanation. Lord Lytton passed the Vernacular Press Act in 1878. By this act, the magistrate of district were empowered without the prior permission of the government to call upon a printer or publisher of any kind to enter into a bond undertaking not to publish anything which might rouse the feeling of disaffection against the government. So these district magistrates were authorized that they could issue a bond against the Vernacular Press Act. So it was a gagging act for against the native language newspapers. Magistrate also were authorized to deposit the security could be confiscated the printer if the printer violated the bond. So this was a gagging act, and Vernacular Press Act of 1878 gagged the press. As a result, there was some proceeding against some of the vernacular press people. There was now a popular protest against the act. The act was later repealed by Lord Ripon, who followed Lord Wrighton. So this is the chronology. You should be aware of the chronology of these Governor Generals and what happened in their tenure. So Vernacular Press Act of 1878. This came during the tenure of Lord Lytton, but it was abolished by Lord Ripon. Let's move on to the seventh question. Which of the following is true about the First Factories Act? First Factories Act was passed in 1881, and it was all about regulating the working hours of Indian laborers. So it kind of addressed the calls of pathetic condition of workers. So let's read the options. It was introduced by Lord Lytton. No, actually, this first Factory Act was also during the tenure of Lord Ripon, who is considered as the good viceroy. So all these good things happened in his tenure, you should be aware of. So 1881 First Factory Act. This is also important from the point of view of various labor commission examination being conducted by UPSC. So you should go through these labor legislations and their evolutions. So correct option would be yes, it was to address the pathetic condition of workers. So correct option would be B, that is 2 only. During the tenure of Ripon's, during the Lord Ripon's time, the first Factory Act was adopted in 1881. Following this, a Factory Commission was appointed in 85, and there was another Factory Act in 91. Royal Commission on Labour was appointed in 92. So this is the gradual evolution of these legislations regarding the addressing the conditions of labors. The result of these enactments was the limitations of factory working hours. This was an answer of the government to the pathetic conditions of workers, wherein only when a laborer exhausted, a new laborer was to take his or her place. So the condition was obviously pathetic, the labor condition of laborers. So all these legislation came in to effect for the betterment of their uh, conditions. Now let's move on to the uh, eighth question. Consider the following statements above in context of Lord Ripon. He is considered the gold viceroy. Local self-governance was obviously it is true. First option is correct. I hope everybody knows this. And Lord Ripon appointed the Education Commission under Macaulay. Under Macaulay Education Commission was constituted in 1835. So this tenure of Lord Ripon is around 1880s. So obviously this option is incorrect. Lord Macaulay was under the Education Commission was constituted under the lordship of Warren Hastings. So this is second option is correct, incorrect, while first is correct. So option would be A, one only. Lord Ripon is also known to have granted India the first taste of freedom by introducing local self-governance in 82. His scheme of local self-governance developed the municipal institutions which have been growing up in the country ever since India was occupied by the British Crown, first in Madras, then gradually to the Bombay and Bengal also. Lord Ripon appointed the Education Commission on February 3rd, 1882 under the chairmanship of Sir William Hunter. So Hunter Commission was appointed by Lord Ripon, and while the Macaulay Commission was appointed by Lord Hastings, a member of Executive Council. So this concludes the question number 8. Now let's read the question number 9. Consider the following about Surendranath Banerjee. He was very radical. It can considered as a very radical and progressive Indian thinker. So he started Indian National Association. Yes, this is correct. He was the founder of Indian National Association. He was popularly known for editing the Kesari newspaper. This is obviously wrong because Kesari newspaper is associated with Tilak. This is Kesari and Maratha was the newspaper being edited by uh, Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So this second option is obviously wrong. So correct would be Correct answer would be A only. The Indian National Association, also known as Indian uh, Association, was the first nationalist organization founded in British India by Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose. So second person would be Anand Mohan Bose in 1876. Its origins are from Zamindar Sabha Association, which was founded by Dwarkanath Tagore, which we have already covered in. Dwarkanath Tagore was the father of Debendranath Tagore. So this Tagore family tree is also important from the point of view of UPSC examination. You should be familiar about this. We have covered these aspects in our previous video, so it's better you can check there. And his illustrious cousin Prasanna Kumar Tagore in 1839. So Adi Brahmo Sabha was founded in 1866. In 1851, it took the shape of a British India Association with Debendranath Tagore, the son of Dwarkanath Tagore, as his honorary secretary. Banerjee later became the senior leader of Indian National Congress. Surendranath Banerjee also founded Indian National Liberation Federation. He was also the editor of the Bengali newspaper, not the Kesari. So the option 2 is incorrect while option 1 is correct. So option answer would be A. Now let's see the last question of today's challenge. The Queen Victoria's proclamation of 1858 was announced by Lord Canning at which of the following places? So by reading this question, we are even by the reading this question, we are getting few informations like Lord Canning was the viceroy when this Victoria's proclamation came. In fact, he was the viceroy when this revolt of 1857 was being suppressed. So this Victoria's proclamation, this actually was announced at a darbar in Allahabad. So option would be D only. Let's move on to read the explanation. On November 1st, 1851, a grand darbar was held at Allahabad. Here Lord Canning sent forth the royal proclamation which announced that the Queen has assumed the government of India. This proclamation declared the future policy of British rule in India. The document was called the Magna Carta for the people of India. So it was kind of a Magna Carta given by uh, British crown to the Indian people about the governance of the country. So they this assumed the governance of India and set free the East India Company, and was declared in eloquent words and principles of justice, religious tolerance, and guiding principles of Queen's rule. The documents also granted amnesty to all. So all the people who participated in the revolt of 1857, except those who were directly involved in the murder of British subjects. So all other people were set free, and the religious differences of Indian people were respected by the crown. So you should be aware about the where this declaration was held at Allahabad, the Queen Victoria's proclamation. Okay, friend, that's all for today's challenge. We hope that you'll enjoyed and learned from this all these 10 questions about the modern Indian history. We will bring you more interesting topics about different subsections of prelims examination. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel, or you can directly download these question papers from our website prudenceias.org. Have a good day.